Welcome to the Moser On Manufacturing podcast, brought to you by Jacket Media Co.
I'm just wild about Harry, and Harry's wild about me.
Good day, everybody. This is Lou Weiss from Manufacturing Talk Radio and All Metals and Forge Group. I'm here with our good buddy Harry Moser, who's the founder and president of the Reshoring Initiative. Probably one of the most responsible people for having manufacturing coming back to the United States, which is only making matters worse in terms of we don't have enough workers. We got the jobs, but we don't have enough workers.
Let me comment on that first.
Please
Clearly, if there are going to be more job openings, you need more workers. Okay,
Right.
but one of the reasons we don't have enough manufacturing workforce, enough people, is because over the last 20, 30, 40 years, in their community, they saw factories shutting down, being offshored. They saw their uncle losing the job at the mill and winding up working at Walmart or doing something like that. And they said, I'll be darned if I'm going into manufacturing. So now, to the extent that the society, the students, the guidance counselors in the schools, that all those people say, wow, manufacturing is coming back. Yes, Susie, if you want to become a welder. Yes, Bill, if you'd like to go work in a Ford shop. Once again, that's a really good career. So I think in the short term, reshoring puts pressure on the available labor, but in the long term, it shows the students that that's an excellent opportunity again.
I agree with that. And I think that you have enough evidence and enough stats and there's enough reports out there to show that there's good money to be made. And you don't have to go into $200,000 debt to become a welder, and a welder. And I love the story about the underwater welder. You know, if you love underwater, if you love scuba diving and all of that stuff, that's great because you could also make $150,000 a year, which is far, far, far away from being a school teacher earning $40,000 a year.
Yeah,
And
I was thinking about that recently, and I wondered if you're there welding on the oil rig or whatever it is,
right.
who is watching your back for sharks? I wonder if they have four welders down there and one guy with a spear gun to chase away the sharks.
Well, there is that. There is that. You know. You probably can wear iron suits and mesh, like the
That they
night.
can't bite through. Maybe they put you in a cage of some kind when
Yeah,
you do
that
it.
could be. That could
That's
be.
what I would think. Yeah.
That's what I would want. I mean, job safety is important especially when they're
Oh,
on sharks.
speaking of job safety, actually, I'm working on an article about the benefits of going into careers in manufacturing, and I found some U.S. government national statistics that show that the injury rate in manufacturing is lower than in non-manufacturing. So, people say, oh, in factories, all that stuff moving around, robots and, things,
Right.
but actually fewer people get hurt per thousand workers in manufacturing than in, I don't know, retail, other places like that. So
That's true.
it's a pretty safe job.
Yeah. Actually, yesterday I was visiting somebody in a hospital, and they had a big sign in the lobby. 357 days since the last accident in the
Yeah.
hospital.
Mhm.
Uh, I thought that's pretty impressive. I mean, I think you can get hurt in hospitals easily. You can slip, you can slide, you can get your toes run over, you can
Mhm.
cut your finger with a scalpel. I mean, there's all
Yeah.
kinds of things that can happen.
I wonder how long though it was since the last employee got sick in the hospital.
They didn't say anything about that. It was probably last Tuesday. So Harry, let's get to it. Let's talk about the skilled workers and the rebuilding and the reshoring. And I mean, there's a lot of things going on right now in our economy, and there's a lot of falsehoods that we're hearing. For example, us being the richest country in the world. Well, that's may not necessarily be the truth anymore, but take the
Yeah,
floor.
used to be true. Back after
Yeah.
World War II, unquestionably we were number one. Maybe Switzerland, maybe Luxembourg, or or somewhere like that. But for a big country, we were unambiguously number one. And now I looked it up a week or two ago, and I think we were number nine. And
Nine.
even Ireland has a higher annual like GDP per capita than the United States does. And Ireland 40 years ago was poor. They were coming over here because they couldn't grow potatoes. and and now they have a higher income than the United States does, and significantly they have that because their government made Ireland an attractive place for companies to locate, to put their headquarters, to put their factories. But they cut the tax rate on the companies, and that attracted the companies and the factories, which drove up the income of the Irish people, and everybody wins. And our government has traditionally not been smart enough to do that. Instead, they've made the U.S. a less attractive place until the last 8 years or so. It's been moving in the right direction.
About 2 or 3 years ago, I was invited to an event in New York City. The German Educational Council was there teaching our educational people about how and why Germany is successful with regards to education and the trades, apprenticeships, and so on. And, it's a real simple answer. They teach them liberal arts and they teach them welding and woodcrafts. And you have to have both. And then when you come out, you pick your choice what you want to do. And that's how they've been able to successfully have a strong economy.
Yeah.
Their economy right now is being hit a little bit, but generally speaking, they don't have the same kind of employment issues that we do.
No, they're starting to have it a little bit.
Yeah,
I think the organization you're talking about is GACC, German American something or other, and
right.
they have a Chicago base. And I was actually on their website half an hour ago, and they provide information on. They provide apprenticeship systems. They provide the structure and the methodology and so on for the apprenticeship system to do it more or less like Germany does. And my old company, I used to run Charmy, Agi Charmy, and we about maybe 7, 8 years ago decided we needed more service engineers, applications engineers. So we followed this GACC system, and we connected with a local community college, and the kids got their English and philosophy and science there, and maybe the basics of machine tool usage, and then they got their detailed training on our products at our place, and had a very successful apprenticeship program. So if someone's looking for to do that, to have apprentices, I think the GACC or GAA, I think it's GACC is a very good source.
Yeah, they were. It was very good, well done. However, and not to talk politics because we don't talk politics. I'm not sure if we have the right group of people in DC to help create what it is that the Germans have done and are now trying to help us do it.
Yeah. Well,
So,
actually, the Germans and the Swiss, because I worked for a Swiss company for 25 years, and I'm the president of the Swiss Machine Tool Society of the United
are
States.
you?
Yes, yeah.
Well, I
and
always
and
said everybody loves you.
anyway, so the Swiss have an equally good system, and the Austrians, all that Germanic area has been the gold standard for apprenticeships and training. and done just an exceptional job. What basically happens at about the age of 6, I think at 15, the kids go in for a 1 month internship at a company. They try a company, maybe a week, maybe a month, I'm not sure. And then at the age of 16, if they're going to go into an apprenticeship, they drop out of their regular school. They go to a technical school where they'll still study the English and the history and then work at the company part time, and gradually more days per week at the company. And they wind up, geez, I took tours to see this, and we'd meet these kids who are 20 years old, and they've had this exquisitely good training. So they're as good, I'd say, as our average 40-year-old, who's been picking it up piecemeal as they went along, and they know science and they know math, and they speak typically English, German, and Italian, and then as they go through the apprenticeship with their company. The companies actually, many of the companies, if they think they need 2 apprentice graduates a year, they'll start 4, and they'll keep the 2 best and donate the other 2 to all the other companies in the community, so to speak. Right? So it's a community thing, and the one reason it works is because where we have 100 manufacturing trade associations, furniture, molds, molding, it goes on and forging. Right. Yeah, they have one association called Swiss Mem, and that association represents all of manufacturing. And when it tells the government how the education and training system is going to work, because it speaks with one voice for all of manufacturing. Whereas we don't. We're all broken up into all these little splinters, and we don't get the job done the way Switzerland, Germany do. So we could learn a lot from them.
One of the things, talking about getting kids going in the right direction, and one of the things that I've been talking about now for years, the dark, dirty, and dangerous aspect of manufacturing is pretty much become a myth at this point. I mean, there's still dirty shops and greasy floors, but a lot of them you go into now, everybody's wearing white coats and booties on their shoes and so on. It's great. One of the things, and I mentioned it to you before the show, is that I think that a lot that needs to be done is that the parents of students have to have a better understanding. They're busy in their lives doing this, that, and the other thing. I think that they need a better education, because you don't hear it in the news. You hear it on Manufacturing Talk Radio, but you don't hear it in the news, and you don't hear it on MSNBC and CBS and FOX and all of that. I think that that the parents need to go to call it a class at the school, and have the counselors guide the parents, showing them your slides. Mm-hmm. And showing them that little Johnny, there's a 40% chance he'll go to college and not graduate. There's a 40% chance he won't graduate and will have a $200,000 debt that either the parents or the kid is going to have to pay for. So maybe the parent needs to understand what manufacturing is all about today, what AI is all about today, what 3D printing is about all today. If the father is an accountant, he doesn't know about AI. He doesn't know about the new one, ASI, which you're going to hear a lot more about. I'm sure you know about it. Machine learning, and the salary differences and so on. And I think that aside from teaching the kids liberal arts and apprenticeship, you got to talk to the parents and show them, here, little Johnny can do this. He can make a lot of money. He'll help pay for your old age, whatever.
Two comments on that. First, I'm working on an article that starts with that myth that you had about dark, dirty, and dangerous, the 3 Ds. Okay,
Right.
and I came up with the 5 S's. So instead of dark, I have shiny, and instead of something, I have safe, and so on. And I gathered statistics where I could, such as manufacturing has a lower injury rate than other portions of private employment. And I got pictures of shops to show how nice the best can be.
Right.
Okay. And so the idea is, I don't have time to work on it, but if I could, when I finish it, there'll be a national one with 2 or 3 pictures of really good shops. And then I'll offer it to each of the trade associations or each of the states so they can customize it for their industry, for their state, and then they can get it out to the teachers and the students and have them see that myth, to overcome the myth that you described.
Don't forget the parents.
And the parents. And the other thing I wanted to point out, if you're located, especially if you're located close to Chicago, say within an hour and a half of drive of Chicago, IMTS, the machine tool show, 120, 130,000 people show, huge, beautiful, wonderful thing, happens every even year in September, like a week after Labor Day. And they have something called a student summit where as many as 15 or 20,000 high school and community college kids come in, and they see the robots and they see the training systems, and they learn about the careers, and they hear people maybe like me or Lou talk about what's going on. And it's just a wonderful place for the kids and the parents, to get exposure to
Yeah.
the wonders of a manufacturing career.
Yeah. It's important, especially as the jobs are coming back.
We need it.
We need it. I mean, we used to have 45 million people in manufacturing. Now we have 12.5, and we're missing 3 million.
Yeah, well, we're not missing. We've lost 6 million, 10 million, depending on when you want to count.
Yeah.
I think the current job openings in manufacturing is something like 700,000. But the projection, what you're referring to, is the projection by the
5 years.
Manufacturing Institute and Deloitte that in 2030 or someday, after
Right.
you and I retire.
No, I'm not retiring, Harry.
Anyway, after our generation retires, that there will be that many openings. Now here's some good news that balances that off from a U.S. competitiveness perspective. The Chinese government projects that by 2025 there will be shortages of 30 million manufacturing workers in China. 30 million. Why is that? Because where our population is still gradually going up, their population is doing this. And the young kids and China has pushed huge amounts of their youth into universities. And now they're coming out and there aren't any university type jobs. And the kids refuse to work in a factory. And so they're doing something called lying flat. They're staying at home, lying on the couch, doing just enough to get by, instead of taking some kind of a job and getting their career going.
Right. Well, that's something they didn't anticipate.
No.
They anticipate that. So, Harry, you got a bunch of slides that I'd like you to share with our audience. So why don't you do
I'll take you through the slides.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay. Yeah. So the first slide, number 1, was a survey done by Chief Executive Magazine in May of 2023, so quite recent. And they asked companies, what's the most important thing to you in enabling you to reshore? What are the things that have to be overcome? And the number 1 criterion was skill and availability of workforce. So both the quantity and the quality of the worker, so that the factory first could be manned, or personed, I guess you're supposed to say today, and also to have the skills and the discipline and the determination, so that the factory could be productive enough to be able to bring the work back from a place like China, where the wages are a third as much, or India, where they're maybe a tenth as much as they are here. So it takes quantity and quality of workers. And so this is what the company said about the decision to reshore. But when you survey them and say, where do you want to put your factory in general, nothing to do with reshore, but you're just going to build a new factory, where are you going to put? They always say number one criterion is availability of skilled workforce. Okay. The second slide, slide number 2, um, the data here is dated because I haven't been working on this so much for a while, but it shows the median earnings for graduates with only a bachelor's degree for different categories. Engineering at the top and humanities and social sciences at the bottom, the yellow line. So you can see roughly the career path there in terms of earnings. And then slide number 3, I interposed in that the earnings of a tool and die maker, okay, which is less than the engineer, maybe less than the physicist, but much higher than almost all the liberal arts degrees. And then I took the difference between the the tool and die maker income and the English major, which was down here at the bottom, and came up with this chart. So you've got the English major, the first 4 years, or too often 5 or 6 years.
This is slide 4.
Slide number 4, correct? Slide number 4. So the English major spending money on tuition, and at this point I said $5,000 a year to be conservative. Today it'd be $20,000 or $30,000 a year,
right?
And then starting to work and making money, 4 or 5 years out of high school, whereas the apprentice starts making money immediately. So they've got 4 years of income, while the English major has 4 years of expense, which puts them way ahead, and then consistently made more money during their lifetime. And then slide number 5, here we go. Slide number 5, I took the difference between the income of the tool maker and the English major and paid half of it in taxes. You make more money, you got to pay more taxes. And I invested the difference at 7% per year, so a reasonable return. And at the age of 49, the tool and die maker had $1 million more net worth than the English major. Now, if you'd asked the guidance counselor who's going to have a higher net worth during their lifetime, the English major or the tool and die maker? Oh, of course, the university graduate, the English major would. But no, not true. But to get them to show this to the kids would take an act of God, probably, because most of the guidance counselors are probably English majors. Anyway, the other thing, slide number 6, was interesting. I was very active with the NTMA, the National Tooling and Machining Association. So the association of shops that machined parts, made molds and dies, did things like a lot of metal machining, and so I surveyed their shop owners, the members of the association, and I asked them, "What's your background? Like apprentice, graduate, or training but not apprentice, or some other alternatives, MBA, what have you? And then how did you get control of the company? Did you found it, purchase it, inherit it, whatever?" And so it turned out that a substantial percentage of the companies were founded by apprentice graduates or purchased by apprentice graduates, and therefore that becoming an apprentice is a great way to be an entrepreneur, to have your own company, to be the boss, which I think 20 years ago everybody wanted to be an entrepreneur. I don't see quite as much fervor for that today, but I think kids still don't want someone else telling them what to do, and the best way to have someone else not have someone else tell you what to do is for you to be the one that tells other people what to do. Or at least I mean, like this Forging Industry Association event I was at, they had a speaker yesterday, a lady who talked about how to deal with the younger generation. There's nothing wrong with the kids. You just have to be flexible. You have to understand what they want and try and give them what they want, and and give them, educate them, train them, give them opportunities, listen to them, and so on. And and that's, that's clearly what, what most everybody has always wanted, I think. But again, the best way for the youth to be able to have that be the culture of their company is to own their company.
Right.
And so
Exactly.
and better to come into a field like this, a profession like forging or tool making, is to get those skills, and then be able to start your own company in a field in which you're an expert. Whereas if you go to if you get an English or history or something degree, and then you say, I want to start a company, well, what do you know anything about? Well, I know about history. Well, how are you going to make money selling history? You can't make, you can write a book, I guess, but you're not going to make, whereas if you're a really good tool maker or forger, you've got a chance to either start your own company or buy a company, and then have the culture the way you think will work best.
Correct. Correct. Yeah, you don't make a lot of money selling English.
I mean,
Especially,
some writers do.
yeah,
Fiction book writers. Some of these people out in Hollywood that are writing, that were on strike for 3 months or something, they're going to make more money writing.
they're going to make out good on this new settlement, the union contract settlement.
And I prefer manufacturing, but I think the biggest problem they have out there is they have these people that are the writers and the actors, and most of them probably only work at writing or acting, 10 hours a week. And the rest of the time they're waiters or something like that, and
Yeah.
working at a bar or barista. And the problem is there's too many of them. And if they get half of them to get a job in manufacturing, then the other half would be making enough money that they wouldn't have to go on strike.
There's always that. Harry, this was terrific. I appreciate all the information. And by the way, folks, this is a huge topic. So I'm suggesting to Harry that we call this part one, and let's continue with the conversation, perhaps with our next meet for the continuation of this in part two, and take this forward, and hopefully that there are those who are going to understand that, ooh, maybe I better listen to this because this is really important stuff. And it's important for the kids, it's important for the parents, especially if you want your kids to take care of you when you're old and gray. Um, I'm not counting on that. Like I said, I'm not retiring. I told my wife, when I retire, that means when they lower the box. So that's the end of that.
So let me mention one thing. So I'm the founder and president of the Reshoring Initiative, as Lou mentioned, and so our job is to help companies uh, produce and source more here in the United States and less from other places, especially unfriendly places.
Yep.
And so companies that have successfully reshored, we'd love to hear about it, because if they let us know about it, we will give them a Manufacturing is Cool t-shirt made in the US out of US cotton. Okay. And if they have the possibility to reshore, either within their own company deciding to produce or source here, or convincing their customer to buy from them instead of from offshore, then we can help them. So we have tools, methodology, data that can help them reshore, either again in their own company or by selling smarter to their customers. So anybody that wants to report a success to me or needs help making it happen, we're at reshorenow.org. So look forward to hearing from you.
Well said. Well said. Harry, it's been a pleasure always. And for all our listeners, if you like our show, hit that like button. And if you want to subscribe to it so you know every show that comes up, hit the subscribe button. And if you have any comments about our show or questions that you would have of me or my guests, particularly Harry. Don't ask me hard questions. I don't know squat. Harry's the guy. That's why we love Harry. Harry, thanks a lot. Appreciate you being here every month and giving us the insight of what's happening in the world.
We always have a great time, Lou. Thank
We
you.
do. We do. Thank you much. Bye all.
I'm just wild about